In the mid-18th century, a storm was brewing across the Atlantic. 13 American colonies, once loyal subjects of the British Crown, found themselves increasingly at odds with their rulers. The relationship, strained by years of what the colonists called salutary neglect, began to fracture under the weight of new British policies. Following the costly 7 Years' War, Britain sought to replenish its treasury by imposing a series of taxes on the colonies. Acts like the Stamp Act of 1765 and the Townshend Acts of 1767 were met with fierce opposition. The colonists, who had no representation in the British Parliament, rallied under the cry, "No taxation without representation." Protests, boycotts of British goods, and intellectual debates about liberty and rights swept through the colonies. Tensions escalated with events like the Boston Massacre in 1770 and the Boston Tea Party in 1773, where colonists, disguised as Mohawk Indians, dumped an entire shipment of British tea into the harbor. In response, Britain passed the Intolerable Acts, a series of punitive laws that closed Boston's port and tightened royal control, pushing the simmering conflict ever closer to its boiling point. The spark finally ignited the powder keg on April 19, 1775. On a quiet morning in Massachusetts, British troops marched from Boston to seize colonial military supplies stored in the town of Concord. They were met by a small group of colonial militiamen on the village green of Lexington. No one is certain who fired first, but a shot rang out, famously dubbed the shot heard round the world. The brief skirmish left 8 colonists dead. As the British continued their march to Concord, they were met with a much larger and more organized colonial force. The British found few supplies and were forced into a harrowing retreat back to Boston, harassed by colonial Minutemen firing from behind trees, walls, and houses. This running battle marked the definitive start of the American Revolutionary War. What began as a protest over taxes and rights had now erupted into open-armed conflict. The Second Continental Congress convened soon after, establishing the Continental Army and appointing George Washington as its commander-in-chief, transforming a series of local militias into a unified fighting force. As the war raged on, the political landscape was undergoing a monumental shift. On July 4, 1776, the Continental Congress formally adopted the Declaration of Independence, a revolutionary document penned primarily by Thomas Jefferson. It declared the 13 colonies to be free and independent states, articulating the foundational American belief that all men are created equal with certain unalienable rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. However, declaring independence was one thing, winning it was another. The early years of the war were fraught with difficulty for the Continental Army, marked by defeats and hardships, including the brutal winter at Valley Forge. A critical turning point came in October 1777 with the Battle of Saratoga. The decisive American victory there convinced France that the colonial cause was viable, leading to a formal alliance. This French support, providing much-needed troops, naval power, and financial aid, was instrumental in shifting the momentum of the war in favor of the Americans. With the powerful backing of the French, the tide of the war turned decisively. The final act of the conflict unfolded in the fall of 1781 at Yorktown, Virginia. General Washington, in a masterful display of strategic coordination, marched his Continental Army south, trapping the British forces under General Cornwallis. Simultaneously, the French fleet, commanded by Admiral de Grasse, blockaded Chesapeake Bay, preventing any British escape or reinforcement by sea. Surrounded and outgunned, Cornwallis was forced to surrender on October 19, 1781. The victory at Yorktown effectively ended major combat operations in the war. 2 years later, the Treaty of Paris was signed, formally recognizing the United States of America as an independent nation. The American Revolution was more than just a war for independence. It was a radical experiment in self-governance that championed the principles of liberty and popular sovereignty. Its legacy echoed across the globe, inspiring countless other movements for freedom and democracy, forever changing the course of history and establishing a new nation founded on the revolutionary idea that the people have the right to govern themselves.